The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today to offer an amendment that will address provisions within this legislation that threaten the independent funding of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency that has been remarkably successful in standing up for consumers and taxpayers who have been subject to the deceptive practices of bad actors in our financial system. To those who have ever fallen victim to a payday or predatory loan, to those who have had a dispute with a credit card company over excessive late fees or interest rates, to those who have had issues with a bank account, mortgage loan, or even a credit score, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is your watchdog. It is your advocate. It is your cop on the beat. And thus far, your advocate has done an outstanding job. To date, 12.6 million consumers have received more than $3.8 billion in direct refunds because of the CFPB's enforcement actions. In large part, the CFPB is able to accomplish these tasks because of its political independence. It is able to prosecute bad actors without regard for the political blowback. This is directly due to the CFPB's independent funding stream. But, Mr. Chairman, this legislation would end the Bureau's independence by tying its funding to the highly political Congressional appropriations process. The result will be a weakened CFPB, one unable to properly advocate on behalf of our nation's consumers. And if enacted into law, we would be one step closer to the Republican goal of ending the CFPB altogether and its work on behalf of our students, seniors, families, and service members. Mr. Chairman, my amendment would end this reckless attempt to politicize consumer protection by removing this provision and replacing it with language that allows the Bureau to maintain its independent funding. Unfortunately, the rules of the House make it impossible to restore CFPB's current funding mechanism. Therefore, this amendment funds the Bureau through the collection of a fee imposed upon banks and financial institutions that have more than $50 billion in assets. I hope my colleagues on the other side would agree with an approach that preserves the independence of our nation's only consumer financial watchdog without costing taxpayers a dime. Mr. Chairman, while it is certainly a possibility, ruling this amendment out of order would simply demonstrate the hypocrisy of the Republican Party. Last week, in a letter to Chairman Sessions, I expressed my concerns about this and other provisions that inappropriately legislate on an appropriations bill. I asked him not to protect these from a point of order. Since he and his Republican colleagues have refused, I'm now forced to offer this amendment. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter this letter into the record. My amendment is a simple effort to ensure the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau remains an effective advocate for American consumers. It's an attempt to correct just one of many bad provisions in this legislation, which underfunds our Wall Street regulators, impedes our ability to identify systemic risk across the United States, and harms the ability of regulators to properly protect our nation's investors and retirees. Mr. Chairman, I'm saddened to be back here fighting to preserve the CFPB. I'm disappointed that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have aligned themselves with predatory lenders and other bad actors in our financial system at the expense of protecting consumers. It's shameful that once again this House is forced to spend precious time and resources tearing down this first-of-its-kind agency, which ensures that consumers have an advocate at the highest levels of government with the power to fight for them. So I would urge the adoption of this amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady's request will be covered by general leave. For the gentlelady from California reserves the balance of her time. For what purpose is the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I make a point of order against the amendment because it proposes to change existing law and it constitutes legislation in an appropriations bill and therefore violates Clause 2 of Rule 21. The rule states in pertinent part, an amendment to a general appropriations bill shall not be in order if changing existing law. The amendment confers new authority, and I ask for a ruling from the chair.
Does any other member wish to be heard on the point of order?
Mr. Chairman,
Gentlelady,
I'd like to be heard on the point of
recognized.
order. As I said in my earlier presentation, I sent a letter to Chairman Sessions and I expressed my concerns about this and other provisions that inappropriately legislate on an appropriations bill. And while the gentleman from the opposite side of the aisle is saying that this is inappropriate, certainly it has been inappropriate to legislate on this appropriations in the way that they have done in order to remove the protection from the CFPB and allow it to be at the mercy of the politics of the appropriations process in this House. And so I would ask that my amendment be recognized and that we would have a vote on this amendment.
Does any other member wish to be heard on the point of order? If not, the chair is prepared to rule. The chair finds that this amendment includes language conferring authority. The amendment therefore constitutes legislation in violation of Clause 2 of Rule 21. The point of order is sustained and the amendment is not in order.